Hi, I'm Tracy Gibbons with Sturt Events.
And I'm Kirsten Klein with Willys.
We know it can be a little overwhelming when you go into the shop, and today we're here to help walk you through the steps.
Now make sure that you've read the information provided here and bring your favorite pair of ski socks, as well as your footbeds if you happen to have them. Take a minute to think through the information and answer the questions that we have listed here, and then make sure that you also have a pair of pants you can roll up to your knees.
So today I'm going to play the role of the boot fitter, and Kirsten's going to be my customer. So we're going to measure your feet. Like I said, there's a lot that goes into this. We're going to measure your foot both seated as well as standing, because it might get longer when you stand on it. I see you brought your footbed, so we'll see how that matches your arch. And then I'm looking at the width of your foot, maybe the size of your ankle, the size of your calf. Those are all things as a boot fitter I'm looking at all of the time. Okay? So let's go ahead and measure. Go ahead and put your foot on here. So as the boot fitter, this is the time that I'm looking at the customer's foot and making determinations on what boots I'm going to go pick from the back room to bring out. So again, I'm measuring the second foot, seated. Go ahead and stand up for me. You know, that one actually gets just a smidgen longer, but I'm confident we can still do a 24.5 for you.
Great.
So I went to the back, and I, through the process, have decided that I think a 95 flex boot is a great place for us to start. You said you've been skiing for a long time, but maybe a little bit conservative, so I think this will be right, but I have an 85, and if we need to, we could try a 105, which would be quite a bit stiffer, but before we really determine which flex is perfect, I want to make sure we're in the right shell for you. So I'm going to have you put your foot in the shell here for me. And go ahead and stand up on that. And slide your toes so your toes just lightly touching the front of the shell there for me.
Got it.
Okay, go ahead and flex forward. And I'm going to look back here, and I'm going to look for ½ inch to an inch. Inch, definitely more towards I got a really wide, maybe got a hard foot to fit, or really more beginner oriented. Okay. So looking back here, that looks good to me. Now I'm going to have you slide your heel to the back. I'm just looking at how your foot fits in there as a whole. That looks really good to me. If you try to windshield wiper the front of your foot, feel like you got just a little bit of room.
Bit of movement, yeah.
Okay, great. Go ahead and pull your foot out. I think this looks like a great start. I've put your footbed in here already. Okay, so should feel nice and comfy on the bottom. Your foot will be used to that. For me, I always like to start with this buckle right here. Does a nice job of cinching your heel back into the back of the boot. Okay, these sometimes are in the way, not a have to have, but I like to get them out of the way. So a little bit there. It's really important when we're buckling up a boot for a new boot. We want your bail to be somewhere towards the first part or maybe the middle of what we call the ladder. Okay, because boots are going to stretch and compress as you're wearing them. So we want to start with a boot that feels snug now, with not a lot of buckle tension.
Sure,
okay?
So you have room to maneuver.
Exactly. Go ahead and stand up on that for me.
Great.
That probably feels a little snug to start with. Okay, what I want you to do is flex your knee forward like you're skiing. With that, you should feel your toes pull away from the front of the boot just a little bit.
Mm-hmm. And I feel my heel pulling back into that heel pocket.
Great. Okay, we always like to have I call it apples and oranges, so I brought out another boot here. Again, I've stuck with the 95 flex,
okay.
And I've actually gone also into some different volumes of boots. Okay, so boots a lot of the time come in different widths.
Sure.
You can think of them as narrow, average, and wide. A lot of the boot companies refer to them by numbers. Okay. I'm just going to call you narrow, average, and wide to keep it simple. Sure. So I've got a narrower boot on that foot. I'm going to go with an average on this foot.
Okay.
Again, I'm going to shell size you. I'm curious to see how the width works out for you. Sure. So I've got you in two 95 flex boots. Now we need to find out what your feet are feeling. So
here's what I'm feeling. Right now in this boot right here, I feel like I've got a little bit more room in that forefoot. It feels really comfortable down in the forefoot, but I'm feeling a little bit of tightness up in here. This one feels more secure, but I'm not feeling that same tightness up in the calf.
Super important that you bring that up. How a boot fits you up here really can determine how the rest of your foot sits in the boot, and that can ultimately affect your skiing and your confidence, because if you're not really seated in the boot, maybe we've got you hanging up here, maybe conversely the boot doesn't wrap and doesn't hold you tight enough. So yes, from my point looking, yeah, we're a little bit snug here. Again, comfy's great, but we really want to go with that all around contact solid feel. So I hear you feeling like this gives you a little bit more control of type of feel.
Correct.
Okay, so one more, go ahead and stand up. Since we're in this 95 flex, I want to see how the boot moves for you. So I want you to flex your knees like you're skiing. Okay, to me, that looks, again, it's a little bit warm in here. Not too much, but a little warm. But your knees coming out, you're coming over about the front of your boot when you're working. To me, that looks like a pretty comfortable flex. How does that feel relative to what you've been in?
It does feel, but I'm feeling a little bit of play up around that calf area. As I said, it wasn't as snug, but now I'm feeling, when I'm flexing into it, I'm feeling like it's opening up in a kind of a gap up there.
Okay, there's a ton we can do with boots. This boot in particular from Tecnica, we now actually have a heat moldable cuff here, as well as obviously still a lot of room left on our buckles here if we need to tighten this. But we can heat this up, actually cinch it up, and mold it to snug that up. And once we determine the actual boot, we can do that.
Sure.
We can redo it if things change.
If I tighten that up using the buckles too much, wouldn't that cut off my circulation?
If we haven't shaped the top part of the boot to match your leg, yes, we're going to actually shape the top of the boot to match your leg. So you shouldn't feel like you're having to crank on the buckle to feel secure. And again, if you're secure down here,
sure,
you shouldn't have to crank up here. If you're really only feeling secure up here, then the bottom of your foot may wander. So conversely, some people are tight down here, loose up here. We're looking for the best balance between those two.
Great.
And again, there's adjustments we can make throughout the whole boot, but definitely having the additional adjustment on the back can be really useful. After trying on a few different boots today, we've determined this is the best feeling boot for you. And I'd like to, and we've got them on both feet, I'd like you to spend 10, 15 minutes walking around the shop in them. Then we'll come back, regroup, and find out if there's any hot spots or any place we need to customize for you.
All right, now so this is the place where you're really going to need to get a sensation of what's happening with the boot. You've had it on for a little while, and you may find that there's a couple of places where you've got rub spots or even a little bit of pressure.
So in your case, it sounds like these are really small, easy to address areas. Places that are very common for some of that rubbing or poking or around the ankle area, a bone here that's called a navicular. Sometimes folks have got a bunion here on the inside, or this great sixth toe area. And those are all places we can address really easily with either heating up the boot and punching it a little bit or doing a little bit of grinding. So really adjustable and easy to fix.
Great. And you also said that you could do something about the calf space that I had as well.
Yeah, and again, while we're doing any of these spots here, we're going to heat this up. It's a short process, and we can adjust that. But before we do that, I want to make sure that you're aligned in the boot. So we're going to do what we call a shaft alignment. We hope you enjoyed the video that we put together, and we hope that you have more confidence to head into your local ski shop to try on some new boots.
We also recognize that being in the shop is a lot different than being out on the mountain. Most local shops are going to provide some kind of a boot fit guarantee. They're there to help fix the problems. What you want to do is identify the places that you might still be developing some pinch spots or rub spots, and then go back and see your shop again so they can customize them.